Hi everybody, and thank you for joining me today. This is the last session of November, and I should make my 6,000 stitch estimate no problem. I am less than 100 stitches off of that this morning, so like I said, that will be no problem. And that means if I manage another 6,000 next month, then I will have this 8 out of 9 passes completed, and I will be started on the very last pass. So that is exciting. The end is approaching slowly but surely. I have moved my whole frame over again. I am working on sort of the last bits of tail feathers here. There's kind of a darker blue eye motif there, and sort of the bottom of another feather that was from the last pass sort of there, and then it fades into the background. So that is what I'm tackling today. I'll be kind of working some up from this side here, some from this top down, and just kind of growing it out from the established stitches as I normally do. You will see what I mean as I stitch. Yeah, hard to believe it is almost December. My favorite time of year. I love Christmas. Always have. The music, the movies, the baking, the scents, the parties. Yeah, I love it. Makes January kind of difficult. It's such a letdown. But, well, that is life, right? It wouldn't be special if it was year-round, I guess, so. But yeah. At the beginning of this year, I was hoping to be completely done with this project by the end of the year, but that just was not possible. That was a bit too ambitious because, like I said, I don't work entirely on one piece. I do have other works in progress, and plus I got a part-time job this year too, so of course that reduced my amount of stitching time, but still made pretty good progress. I'm pretty happy with it. I'll have to look for how much I managed in a year, but it'll probably be around 70 to 80,000, which isn't bad, if I do say so myself. So, okay, I'm gonna need a new strand of that. Probably put up our Christmas tree this weekend. Usually we do it last weekend of November or very early December, like December 2nd, sort of depending on where the weekend falls that year. Yeah, I've already done most of my Christmas shopping, except of course for the actual groceries we'll need for the day of. Yeah, I was saying how Canada's most famous chocolatier is Purdy's Chocolates, and they don't have a permanent storefront where I live, but they generally have a pop-up, you know, for November, December, early January. For Christmas sales, and I was looking for it in the mall because that's where it was last year, and the store space that they used was still empty, so I thought, oh, maybe they're not coming this year, and so I was gonna go and order some online, and then when I typed it in, it popped up the new address for it was in a different shopping center. It was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm going out there now. So I did. Yeah, they said chocolate prices around worldwide have gone up because the harvest has not been as good. So it's in shorter supply, which of course means higher prices. So yeah, it was a little cha-ching. But I generally only buy Purdy's chocolates like once a year, so yeah, it's a special treat. There used to be one when I got my first full-time job. There was a storefront in the mall where I worked, and they sold like not just the specialty chocolates, but just like little chocolate bars. So they'd have like mint ones, peanut butter ones, that kind of thing, hazelnut ones, and yeah, I bought a lot. And we also had a competitor which was called House of Brussels. They're no longer in business. This was in the 90s. And they were sort of like a knockoff Purdy's kind of thing. And they were pretty good. Not quite as good, but pretty good. But oh man, when I first started working at the mall, they would have like, 6 chocolate bars for the price of 3. So I would buy 6 of them and like eat them all on the bus on the way home. It was so unhealthy. I only did that for like the first couple of weeks though. Then I was like, okay, I need to stop gorging myself on this. They have a bigger selection than they did when I was a kid. They've got dark chocolate ones as well. They've got vegan ones even. They've got sugar-free ones. I know because I accidentally almost bought some one time. I was taking them and she said, "Are you sure you want the sugar-free?" And I was like, "Oh, I didn't even realize. I thought they were just the normal hedgehog truffles, because they look like little hedgehogs, and they're hazelnut truffles. That's like one of their signature pieces. They're very good." And it's like, "Oh yeah, no, I do not. I am able to eat real sugar." So yeah, unfortunately, my husband can't have some of the stuff because I bought this one that was like basically hard toffee, and then it has like a layer of chocolate, and then it's got like a layer of crushed almonds on the outside, and he can't eat almonds. So yeah, almonds, hazelnuts, or walnuts he can't have. So unfortunately, my son and I split those. I was sad though, they used to make this dark chocolate raspberry one. It was so good. I'm not a big fan of dark chocolate, but with the raspberry in it, it's really nice. I don't like straight dark chocolate, but yeah, if they have it infused with like mint or raspberry, then I do like it. But I find just the dark by itself is too bitter for my taste. It was funny. I saw a video they made where they had little kids trying dark chocolate, and of course they hear chocolate, and then you see them bite into it, and then their face is kind of like, wait, what is this? This isn't what I was expecting. The dark chocolate is the one that's supposedly better for you because of the antioxidant properties, but oh well. Alrighty. Yeah, I was talking about how Kiddo bought himself a gaming computer a couple of years ago with his money he saved, and so he upgraded some of the stuff. He went and got because he has driving games he likes, so he got the pedals, the shifter, the actual steering wheel that gives you like feedback, so it actually does feel like you are driving and stuff. And my husband said, "Oh well, now you could learn to drive manual on this, because if you grind the gears or stall it, it won't matter. It's not a real car." Like, yeah, maybe. Because I do not know how to drive a stick. I know in some countries, actually, it doesn't matter if you have an automatic. You have to actually pass the road test on a manual transmission. So in Canada, we don't have to. You can either use a car they have there for taking the test, or you can use your own vehicle. So it can be an automatic, and it's fine. Which is what I did. I took my road test in my own vehicle, which, since it was the one I learned in, so that makes it the easiest, right? Because every vehicle handles just slightly differently. So so yeah, if you look at this this color, like I said, kind of forms this shape here because that's the bottom of a feather, and there's another feather that is kind of overlapping here. And so I'm just going to kind of work from both edges, I think, at once, sort of out to that stopping point where it becomes the sort of the background of this piece. So I did say that I didn't think I would finish his tail this month, and I was correct. At the very bottom of this pass, I did sort of get to the edge of the feathers, but there are still some feathers to do this month, and that is fine. I don't mind. Okay, so I'm going to do these two here, and as I often say, I will do a stitch if it is connected on one side. So I'm going to do this one rather than sort of leaving it undone. And I'm going to park it right there because I'm going to kind of carry that thread down and then sort of back up over here rather than carrying it down, jumping back up to the top to do that one, which would use more thread. So. But you could choose to use a separate piece if you wanted. You could choose to not do that one and do the jumping. It's up to you. I always say these are guidelines and not hard rules. So far it has not been a very snowy winter here. We will see. Often we pay for it in January, February. Usually our coldest cold snaps come in those months. Although fortunately they don't last for too long. Like, I have people say, oh my gosh, it gets to -40 or sometimes colder. I said, yeah, but it doesn't stay that way for weeks. It's usually a few days. And then most of the time it's pretty bearable. Especially as we say here, it's a dry cold, and that does make a difference. Humidity makes it feel so much colder. So what I could do is, like I said, do this sort of horseshoe shape here and then this one, or I could do this one and then the horseshoe shape, and it's really, either way works. I'm gonna kind of do both at once because that's what I feel like today. Some days I won't because I'll prefer to have fewer threads going at once, and like I said, either way works. It's just preference. Yeah, still a lot of purple, this purple left here. As you can see, over 3,000 of this stitch remains. This color remains. I apologize if I don't talk as much today. My throat's a little bit sore. You could probably hear. I don't sound quite like myself today. Yeah, I hope I'm not coming down with a cold, but you know, it is that time of year, so who knows? Trying to select, there we go, the number 8s. It was funny, I had one previous pattern I worked on. The 413 was number 4 symbol and the 414 was a number 3 symbol. It was like, that should have been reversed. Pardon me, but I figured it out in the end. It's just, yeah, that would have been easier to remember if the last digit had matched the symbol. So I have about 35,000 remaining. I think, something like that. So, it is happening. Okay, I did these. So as you can see, I just kind of followed the curve of those colors that way. And let me find... Oh, pardon me. So I won't have managed as much as last month, which was 8,000 stitches, but that's okay. So that means, yeah, I'd be on track to finish in about sometime in May of next year. So we will see. How close do I get? Yeah, so I'm just doing some along this curve, and like I said, some will be along the top, and I will just kind of work from both ends. That's the way I like it. Okay, I need a shorter piece here. And that means making it to 90% by end of December shouldn't be a problem. Might even be 91. Do these that are along there. So I discovered when I ordered something today on Amazon, they got rid of the archive order function. So there used to be, you could archive the orders so they didn't appear in your main orders feed. You sort of had to go look for them. And so people often did that when, like, say they shared an Amazon account so that people wouldn't see like what gifts you bought them. And I discovered that earlier this year they did away with that. So yeah, something to be aware of if you share an account with someone you're buying gifts for. You don't want it to give away the surprise, right? Like, my husband and I have our own Amazon account, so it's not that big a deal or whatever, but I was just kind of curious that I noticed as I was going through my order feed that button was no longer there, and Googled it and looked, and yeah, found out that earlier this year they had done away with it. And you can't have multiple, as far as I know, from what I searched, you can't have multiple Amazon accounts as the same person. They could end up suspending them. So, I mean, I don't think that's very smart of them. They may lose out on sales that way. And apparently the stuff that had been archived at one point is now back in your normal order feed, and there isn't anything you can do about it. So yeah, I know that would kind of suck for some people. Okay. So can see sort of there's this is sort of where the feather will end, and then another color will start there. And I'm going to kind of cut it off at that color there and fill that in later, which will probably be in December when I get to that. So they Amazon too did away with, I think it was this year, where it used to be ebooks you bought from them, you could download it, a copy onto a hard drive, and they did away with that too. And they said, yeah, it kind of sucked for people that I remember there was a scandal a few years back. This was before AI was really a big thing, but somebody had basically created books plagiarizing other books by, I believe they'd had a computer do it, or they'd just done big sort of copy and paste or whatever. And it was discovered, and so of course they took all those books down because they're plagiarized material, which is of course completely understandable. However, there was someone who was saying that they had actually been running an analysis kind of program on how it had been created, and unfortunately that meant even the copies that they had bought disappeared from their library, and they could not analyze them anymore, which they said kind of sucked. And I think people got refunded from what they spent for it too, but she said, I would have preferred to actually still have the copy so that I could sort of analyze how they'd done it. Because like I said, this was about 10 years ago, I think. So like generative AI was not really a thing like it is now. Alrighty. 9-3 now. Yeah, still a lot of this color. Yeah, so this was the color that DMC itself directly I wasn't able to buy on one of the big 500-gram cones, but as I mentioned, I found it on 123 Stitch sells the 100-gram cones of this color. So because there is a Canadian one called Stitch It, and they sold a lot of stuff on cones, but 939 was not available for some reason, which I said I've always been surprised because it's a very commonly used color. Like you could buy Kelly Green as a 500 grams. Like I don't even know if I've ever used that color, but yeah. Christmas Red you could get. I got black 310 on a cone because of course you always use lots of that. And my Ocarina of Time piece called for like, oh sheesh, like 60 of them. So at that point I just went, yeah, I'm gonna just buy a big cone. Heaven and Earth Designs was selling off all their cones last month because they said they're no longer doing any physical products except for, I believe, charts. I believe they're still selling printed versions of charts because some people prefer those. And of course, they're continuing with the PDF charts. But other than that, I am not sure. They said they're no longer doing accessories, fabric, whatever. They sold that off too, and the cones were sold off. So, well, they've been through a very hard time the last while. Michelle's husband, he passed, and one of their daughters did too, and so I can completely understand why they're kind of cutting back a little bit on the services they offer to keep things more manageable, because it is so hard to keep on going when you're grieving, right? Yeah, my heart goes out to her. Okie doke. I'm going to park that there, and then I'm going to come back up. Oh, there we go. I didn't even realize I've gone past 271,000 total completed, so yay! By the time I'm done this session, I will be definitely, because like I said, I think it was like 265 and like 32 stitches or something like that. So by the time I am done this session, I will have definitely gone past 6,000 stitches. So woohoo! And to complete this pass is 275,000 even. So barring some very unexpected circumstances, reaching that by the end of December should not be an issue. Because that's, under 5,000 away now, so, or 4,000, I should say. I can't math. Yeah, I'm at 271,000, so that should be no prob. As I said, I did get a little less done because it's figure skating season and there's competition like every weekend of November, so that also cut into my stitching. So, but there's just one competition in December, the Grand Prix final, and then not really much of anything until January, when countries will start. I believe there's European championships in 4 continents, and then there's, of course, countries are going to be holding their nationals to decide who gets the spots for the Olympic teams. So yeah, doing well in the season counts a lot, but there's a lot of factors that go into who they decide to send. So it'll be interesting to see. Like I said, some of the countries, it's a very fierce competition to get one of the Olympic spots, because like in Japan, skating is huge. And so they said, like, you could be really high in the world, but be, first in international competitions, but still be 5th or 6th in Japan, because it's very, very fierce competition. So like I said, it's I believe they have 3 spots, but it's a battle for who gets them. Yeah, a couple weekends ago, the few pairs teams did not do so well. They had some lifts that didn't happen. Thankfully, no Nobody was hurt, but it was just, yeah, when they went to get the lift up over the guy's head, it didn't quite happen. The timing was off and he had to set her back down. And, those are a lot of points, so. But yeah, like they say, in the end, if it's a choice between safety and that, yeah, save your partner. Yeah, you know somebody's good at it when they make it look easy, because it is not. So yeah, as I said, this is sort of where the tail ends. And so I won't finish up all of the tail feathers this month, but got a pretty good portion of them done. So if I manage to make my estimate by the end of December, that would mean I think I'd be at the 30,000 stitches remaining. So yeah, like I said, if I manage 6,000 a month, that gives me 5 more months. So that would be May to finish. And I've had a few people ask, and yes, when I start my next project, I will be stitching it again with the color flow method, and I do plan to make a tutorial about starting a project with that method. So stay tuned. I did do a tutorial, I think a year back, in this project showing my revised color flow method, because it has changed over time. When I first started my YouTube, I was stitching more diagonally, and many people still stitch that way, and that's, you know. And then over time it kind of changed a little bit, and now I stitch with the new. A lot of the principles are still the same, that I don't do stitches that are off by themselves that aren't connected. I try not to close in on all 4 sides. Just growing out from existing stitches, but the shapes I end up making on my fabric are sometimes different, rather than trying to stick to a diagonal line. So. Yeah, it was funny. Slow Stitch Yogi said it's kind of like a chess game, which is funny because I do not like chess, but yes, it does kind of. Yeah, my dad absolutely loved chess. He would play against the hardest setting on the computer and stuff. And they actually had at the mall where I worked after I finished high school. For quite a while, they actually had these big chess sets. Like, it was big rubber foam mats on the floor, and big chess pieces that like came up to your knee. And so he often went there. Sometimes he played, sometimes he observed. And there was, yeah, so there were like 4 or 5 of them throughout the mall. And of course, it was almost all retired guys would be sitting on the benches watching. And yeah. Yeah, they got rid of them a few years later, but they were quite popular. But you didn't have to pay to use them, as far as I know. But it was one of those, right, you do it to get people to come into the mall in the hopes that if they're there already, they'll spend money. Maybe buy lunch or that sort of thing. Yeah, but with the rise of internet shopping, malls are kind of a dying thing, especially with, like I said before in other videos, with the great big department stores either going out of business or building their own buildings. Like, I haven't seen a Walmart that was part of a mall for quite a while. They all build their own super centers now, that kind of thing. So Canada's West Edmonton Mall, which I believe is the biggest mall in Canada, or at least it's one of them, that's still going pretty strong as far as I know. It's kind of a tourist attraction, but it's funny because actually quite a few TV movies and stuff have been filmed in there, and I did recognize it. There was some Christmas ones, and there's sort of a big display that's like, it looks like a big pirate ship. And so I saw that on film. I was like, oh, that has to be West Edmonton Mall, and looked up the filming locations, and yes, it was. Yeah, I've been there a few times. Take a look. So yeah, fill in that little indentation there with a new strand. I'm about to pass 100 soon. So yeah, I am definitely past 6,000 for this month. Woohoo! Yay! Yeah, it was looking a little close there for a while whether I would make it, but I did. And then, of course, in that final pass, we're going to start to zero out lots of stuff. Yeah, I feel like this is one reason why I don't have a ton of works in progress, I should say, at a time. I like to get things done. So if I had a ton in rotation, I feel like I would never get anything finished. And well, I do love the process of stitching. I do like having finished projects, that's for sure. Okay, so yeah, I parked that there so I wouldn't have to stretch it all the way to the top, and I will just carry this thread up and back down. Oh, so we had a saga. I was trying to get Kiddo set up with his first credit card so he can start building his credit. And I applied for this. I helped him apply for the one through my grocery chain, because you get money back basically in points. And I mean, everybody needs food, right? So we tried signing up for that, and I guess they didn't approve him because we waited and waited. And it was right before the complete Canada Post strike. So we thought maybe it's lost in the mail, but they resumed service it's still in rotating strike. So things do take longer, but they are moving, and it's been 2 months. It never showed up. So we just assumed that they decided not to approve him, even though he does have a full-time job. So I said, okay, well, forget it. So we applied through Canadian Tire because same thing, no fees, and they give you back in points. And so we went through that and we applied on the weekend, and we got an email within 5 minutes that it's approved and in the mail. I'm like, well, sheesh. If I'd known you guys were going to make it so easy on us, we would have just gone with you in the first place. I said, it's silly of them. I mean, I know someone's young. They don't really have any credit history, but it's like, approve them for a card for like $500 and then slowly raise it if they show that they're responsible in paying it back. Because, I mean, it's one of those things. People tend to not change, banks or credit cards. Once you're with something that works, changing is a hassle. Nobody wants to. So I said, it's kind of silly because, you kind of cost yourself a customer for life potentially, right? Like, that's one of the reasons why the banks, especially, they give the kids accounts where they don't have to pay any fees till like they're 23, because like I said, usually once people have their bank set up and their direct deposits are going from there, their automatic payments are coming out of there, changing all that is a huge hassle. And so, yeah, if you lock them in early, you gain a customer for life. So actually, I'm going to do that one first. So yeah, these kind of, the way they cross over each other, I'm going to have to pick one to do. So, oh, hang on a sec. I think, oh yeah, I know what I did. This one here is parked one square over from where it should be. Yeah. I kind of thought as I was parking another strand that something looked like it might not quite be right there. That's okay. And this, again, is one big reason why I don't do stitches that are not attached to other stitches, because I think that one is actually wrong too, but I'll fix it in a minute. Because yes, if I do them when they're not attached to other stitches, I can often, like I just did there, make counting errors, and then it is a pain to fix it later. So if I just parked it wrong but didn't stitch it, I'm usually more likely to catch that mistake before I actually put the stitches in. And that is, of course, easier to fix if it's just a parking error. So I'm going to park this one and double check because, yeah, I think one of those dark purple ones is in the wrong spot. Because I broke one of my guidelines, which is to park based on my grid lines and not based on what is already stitched, because, or what is parked, because yeah, if I park one wrong, you park a bunch wrong, which is what I think I did. So let me count 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay, there we go. So I was over by one, no problem. All fixed now. Like I said, because it was just parking and not actually stitched, that made it much, much easier to okay, so do those. So I do occasionally end up with little indentations like this, but then I smooth them out later, so. So we had just over 35,000 stitches left, getting close to that. Because if I do 271, 9,000, then I would have I believe, if I've done the math correctly, 35,000 left. So might not. I probably won't make that this month, but yeah, I'm closing in on it. So that means I should get to the 30,000 stitches or less mark at some point in December. Woohoo! Oh, that looks funny. Is there a knot? Oh, yeah, something's not. No, that looks better. Okay, I don't know. It was just a little loopy, I guess. So I'll try to stitch to 200 today, I think. I've got some bigger blocks here, so that should not be an issue. I was saying earlier about the Amazon, you can't archive orders. Apparently, I read too, there is a way to have like a family account, so like everyone could say, use your Prime membership, but I haven't done that. We just use my Prime membership for the TV and stuff. So yeah, like I said, kiddo's credit card's coming, and so we've agreed he will pay for the streaming service each month, which isn't very much. It's like 20 bucks. And then I said that way, even if you only charge a little bit and pay it off every month, that will slowly build your credit. And then of course, once he moves out, he won't pay for it anymore. We will, but that's sort of, yeah. He contributes a little that way, and we will help him build his credit because it is important. If you ever want to be able to, yeah, make big purchases, that will be important later. I said, I chose to get the one through my grocery chain. They also are work with, I think, Esso, the gas, and also Shoppers Drug Mart. So I earn points and can redeem points in all those places. And like I said, it's for stuff I'm going to get anyway, groceries and things. So yeah, I mean, might as well get those points. I get about $1,000 worth of free groceries every year, which is certainly nothing to sneeze at. Yeah, it was funny because Safeway, they changed. They used to be an Air Miles sponsor, but they no longer do, and they now signed up with Scene Plus, which is like the Cineplex chain. And yeah, the reports they give are lousy now. I had it one time, my husband was with me and we were shopping, and it was like, they said, oh, do you want to, redeem 1,000 points for $10 off? And I was like, oh, sure. My husband's like, oh, wow, $10 off. I said, oh, yeah, that took me a year to save $10 worth of points. He's like, oh, I'm like, yeah, that's why I don't do most of my grocery shopping there. Because I said the other place, I get $1,000 worth of free points every year. So, I mean, really no comparison. I mean, hey, I do because Safeway carries a few things that my regular grocery store doesn't. So I get those there. And I mean, might as well get the points. But yeah, there's no contest. I do the bulk of my shopping at Superstore. So yeah, like I said, you can kind of see where that feather ends, and that will be sort of as far to the right as I go before filling in below and then shifting over, at which point I will probably switch to my smaller Q-snap frame. So this is an 11 by 17, which I use for most of it, but when I get close to that far right-hand edge, I usually switch to an 11 by 11. I just find that easier to do that far edge. And then yeah, one reason why I like to leave I like to have about 4 inches on each side. I just like to have that extra frame or room in the clamp frame so that I can stitch far away from the edge of the frame, because it can get in your way. Because I've had people say like, oh, I only have a 2-inch border, will that work? And there's been a few people saying that, yeah, their framer made it work. But I would be really nervous to stitch that close. I did used to when I first started as a kid, because I didn't know any better, and then I had a hard time finishing projects. I had like three stitches left between my stitching and the edge of the cloth. That's really not enough space. Oh dear. Unthread that one because it'll be a while till I get to it. Ooh, that one is not stitched yet. All right, I'm going to come down here and do some of this dark blue. I often will sort of do 1 or 2 rows and then switch to another color so I don't get carpal tunnel from doing the same motion. I find if I do tons of the same color that's in a big block all at once, it can give me forearm pain, which I obviously do not want. Yeah, so I did say 5 months, but then we'll see, because of course the Olympics are next year, early next year, and World Championships in March. So we'll see. I don't watch all the Olympics, I just watch figure skating. I'll sort of follow our medal counts and stuff, but that's about it. Something looks wrong there. It looks like a little, yeah, end is popping up. That's what that was. Yeah, it's kind of grayish. Or is it on this hole here? Yeah, there we go. So I find when it does that, I prefer to go down through that one rather than up, because otherwise it keeps trying to pull that thread further up, and I don't want that. So, Ooh, pardon me. Yeah, talking about that, I love Christmas. My mother-in-law was the same way. She, in fact, a lot of the stuff that was filling up the basement was Christmas stuff. Some of it, I think, hadn't even been seen in years. And my mother-in-law actually did themes every year, so she'd do, like, different colored... It was funny because she asked me, and she's like, what theme? And I'm like, theme? Because my Christmas tree looks pretty much the same every year. You know, when my son was little, he would add a new ornament or something he made in school, but other than that, yeah, we didn't do themes. We didn't have that much decorations. Like, we didn't have mostly green ones or mostly blue ones or whatever, so it was a mix. But yeah, she had so many that she kind of cycled through them. Oh, darn not. I have been lucky so far this session, but my luck just ran out. Come on. Come on. Oh, you're gonna be like that, huh? Oh, come on. Oh, you piece of junk. Okay. Oh, look at that. That's funny. Pulling it through to the front actually undid it. I couldn't undo it from the bottom, so that works. But anyway, so, yeah, it was hard, of course, for my father-in-law to get rid of a lot of the stuff she's accumulated, even though, like I said, she was a bit of a pack rat, so there was a lot of stuff. But if it went to family, then it wasn't as hard. So, yeah, a lot of us got a lot of new Christmas decorations. Like I said, I took a big stuffed penguin and snowman. So this will be my first year putting those out. Yeah, it's funny because her other daughter-in-law, my husband's brother's wife, she is not really into Christmas at all. So, yeah, I definitely am. So, well, her family had a retail business for quite a while, and so, of course, Christmas is extremely stressful for them because they make a bulk of their year's sales at that time, and yeah, you don't really get much time off when you work in that kind of a business. And as much as it's supposed to be the season of goodwill, people can get very, very snappy and rude. So it can be very unpleasant. Yeah, my very first job that wasn't like paper route or babysitting was I worked at Zeller's, which was like Canada's version of Walmart kind of thing. At Christmas time as a recovery personnel, so we were to tidy displays and stuff and sort of make them look, nicer. And because of course they would get destroyed by people taking from them and browsing and stuff. And yeah, it could be very stressful. And so ever since I did that, I said, I try to be extra nice to people who work in that job because I know it sucks. People can be total jerks to you. My first full-time job I got was in the food court, and they started in December, so of course it was super busy. So it was definitely learn by like being thrown in the deep end of the pool kind of thing and see if you could swim. So then of course January was so slow and boring. Yeah. It was the Manchu walk chain, and we teamed up with Coca-Cola because they were our distributor and or supplier, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, and you remember the old Coke bears? I don't know if they still have those around, you know, the polar bears ad campaigns. We had a stuffed bear you could buy. Either you got it free if you spent a certain amount, or you could buy it. And yeah, he had the little, of course, Coke bottle in his hand, and he had a little Chinese looking like jacket. So yeah, and I think I still have it somewhere. They let me have one, of course. All the employees got one, and so I still have him somewhere. Yeah, I don't know if they still make those. I'd have to look it up. Yeah, actually, our modern view of what Santa looks like is because of the Coca-Cola ad campaigns kind of solidified it. So that's kind of an interesting little piece of trivia if you didn't already know. Oh yeah, about to pass 200. Woohoo! There we go. So I think 202. Yeah, and like I said, I have surpassed my 6,000 stitch estimate for November, so yay! I made it. So yeah, the next Stitch with Me will be in December. And of course, I will be doing my monthly update before that, where I take this thing out of the frame and show the whole thing to you. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you here next time. Thanks, everyone. Bye.